Hello, friend. So grateful you can spend time with us today. Matt Harris and Seton Tucker. We're going to be talking about the Asha Degree case in just a second here with a host of Crack House Chronicles. I want to tell you first, part of the Evergreen Podcast Company, please support the sponsors and hit us up on Facebook, Impact of Influence Facebook page. And then from there, you can get to the slowly but surely growing YouTube channel.
Well, I actually was on with Donnie and Dale, maybe was it about a year ago or a year and a half ago to talk about the Murdaugh case. And they were gracious enough to have me. And when we started diving into the Asha Degree case, I was like, well, this is their home turf. We've got to get these guys on.
So thanks for joining us, and thanks for having Seton on earlier. Appreciate it, guys.
We're glad to be here. I'm glad to do it.
You do a great show. The Crack House Chronicles, and I want to get to something first before we get an Asha Degree, if you don't mind. I want to tell us about the why and the how you started doing the podcast.
Oh, wow. I started the podcast. I started the podcast in January of 2019. And the way I got started was, I'd always been into true crime and mysteries and different things like that, the old shows In Search Of and Current Affair and Unsolved Mysteries and things. And a guy that I was good friends with at the time, and I asked him about starting a podcast, and he said, sure. And we'd done a few episodes together, but it just wasn't jiving the way we wanted it to go. We just had a lot of disagreements on how the show should be done and different things. And we parted ways. And then my longtime buddy, Dale, me and him go way back.
Yeah.
Yeah, I called him up one day. I said, dude, you got to do the show with me. You got to do the show. So we've been doing it for a little over 5 years together now, and it's working out great. We've got the same view and vision on where the show should go, and it's just taking off.
Yeah, he sent me a text.
They're ahead of us.
Yeah.
You're way ahead of us, so we're still figuring out our vision.
Yes. Well, I know the next podcast will just be the stories from you guys hanging out together for 25, 30 years. There's stories there. I know there is.
Oh yeah. Water skiing at night.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
That's crazy stuff.
Well, you do a great job on all the cases. This one is particularly close to you guys because you are from Shelby, where Asha Degree went missing February 14th, 2000. I moved to Charlotte in 2001. And it became in Charlotte, and nationally was a huge news too, but Charlotte every year is like the anniversary of the disappearance of Asha Degree. And there is an update, which we will get to here in a few minutes. But it is something that has been around Shelby's mind, the people in Shelby and Cleveland County and the area forever. There's been a giant billboard up. It has been something that I'm sure that you guys have heard rumors and innuendo and talk for now. It's been 25 years, right? I mean, this is still weighs heavy on the Cleveland County folks.
Exactly. Yeah, the day one when Asha went missing, Dale and I were both working at the same place. And that morning, going to work before 7 o'clock, we actually went through the roadblock there on Highway 18, stopping cars, looking for her and asking if anybody had seen her.
Yeah.
That very morning. So we've been since day one. We've been part of this.
Yeah. So just a few hours after it happened, we were there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I was like, wow, why are they having a license check this early in the morning? And then he was asking me they were looking for a child. I'm like, oh, it's a big difference. Wasn't expecting that.
So I'm going to get into how exhausting that search was for everybody in a second, because everybody went all out. But just to set this up a little bit, if you haven't, the basics of the story, Asha was 9 at the time. And if I get these facts wrong, just jump in, because you guys are close to it. We're in Charlotte. Charlotte's about 50 miles from Shelby, to give people an idea. Shelby, Cleveland County. She left her home, walked along the highway. It was a rainy, windy, stormy night. A few vehicles saw her. Get more specific about that in a second. One of the trucks, the guy saw her go into the woods and assumed that she had a home back there, which is understandable. And then immediately, because again, they're guessing, I think, that the timeline was like 3:45 to 4:15. Is that something like that, right? Where they try to figure out that's when she'd been missing?
AM.
Yeah, AM in the morning.
Yeah. So this is very unusual for a 9-year-old to be out at this time of night.
Right.
Correct. Yeah. It was About that time, yeah, when supposedly she was saw by a Sundrop truck driver, and spotted her and actually turned around to go see if he saw what he saw. Yeah. And turned around again and he saw what he thought was a child walking on the highway with a book bag and maybe something else in her other hand. Is all that they've let anybody know about.
It's not very wooded where it was, so we don't really, go with the wooded area.
Yeah, you hear a lot of wooded area right through there, but it's not. It's pretty developed, and even then, it was pretty developed. A lot of houses, church
it's
there.
Not super urban, but it's definitely not wooded.
So there's like a housing division or a neighborhood there that he could easily understand him thinking, or she's just going to go to her house.
Well, not really where that was. There's a few houses scattered in, but it's
Okay.
fields down to that.
But he also had no cell phone. I heard you talking to one of the original detectives or one of the police or Cleveland County sheriffs that he had no cell phone, which kind of makes a difference too, right?
Yeah, this was before people regularly, I think, had cell phones all the time.
Yeah.
Yes.
Dale actually had one in 2000. He called his girlfriend at the time and was telling her about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was talking to her on the phone when we run through this thing. She was in Wisconsin at the time.
Now, the search became massive and quick, like that morning, as you said, right?
Yes.
Was it hundreds of people? There was hundreds of people showing up, searching hand in hand. Explain how that played out.
Yeah, there was a lot of people showed up. They had airplanes in the air. They had search dogs out searching the highway, searching the fields, along the road, anywhere that they thought Asha might have been, especially where she was spotted there on the highway. And, it had rained that night before, and they did have search dogs out there and scent dogs that were looking for her scent. So it was a pretty big search at the time. Yes.
And right away, they ruled out anything to do with the family, right? They did the family, the mother and father, who everybody, when a person goes missing or the child goes missing, you got to zero in and make sure that they were not involved, and they were cleared quickly, correct?
Yeah, fairly quickly.
Much, yeah.
I don't think, just like pulling up and say, they didn't do it, but I think they questioned pretty extensively, and it's been reported they've all taken polygraph tests.
Yeah, they requested to take polygraphs, I believe.
Say again?
I think they were actually requested. They said, yeah, please give us a polygraph.
Yeah.
So we can move on, right?
Exactly. So it wasn't like an immediate being cleared kind of thing, but, over, the few days of an investigation, I think they were slowly being cleared.
Also, you know how it is. Nobody's ever really cleared.
True.
They just
True.
say it's cleared. But, Mark Davis did tell us that when he came on, they were talking about that Harold, the dad, had been out or whatever. But he came on, first thing he did was walk out to his car and put his hand on the manifolds to see if the car was warm, and it was not.
So the cars hadn't moved before, the night before. Yeah, right.
Sometime, yeah, correct.
Well, let's talk a little bit about Asha, because what is so unusual about this case is there was no indication that she would have been somebody who would have left the home. I mean,
Exactly.
she was a model student. Tell us a little bit about her.
Asha, like I said, she was 9 years old, and her and her brother O'Brien, they were very sheltered children.
Very close.
Very close, too. They didn't have a computer in the home, no cell phones. And their little community they lived in, it was just family, mostly family right there, aunts and grandmother. And so everybody there knew everyone, and their whole world centered around their family, church, and school. And
sports.
In sports, yeah. So that was it. So that's all they had going on.
9-year-olds don't usually run away. I think the average is like 12 or is the lowest age. And there was no sign that there was any strife in the home life, no problems with her. So it became really confusing why she would get up and go in a super rainy night. And they didn't find any clues except for what did they find in the shed near the business?
Supposedly in the shed, they found some candy wrappers and a pencil. It was a Atlanta Olympics, because that the Olympics had been held in Atlanta.
96, I think.
Yes,
96 Olympics.
And they actually went. The Greaves actually went to Atlanta, so they bought a pencil and some knickknacks and stuff down there. So Asha did have a pencil, and they did find that there.
In that photo of that girl.
Yeah, it was
Now
not
that is
one
that the
photo.
photo of the girl explained because I've not heard that they ever identified what the photo was. Do you? Is that right?
Yeah, that's correct. She has not been identified, and no one knows.
Don't know where it came from or who it is. That is a big mind flow.
Yes.
And they ran
No.
the picture in the Charlotte Observer at the time, but it wasn't, it was kind of run towards, I believe, the back of the newspaper.
Yeah, like page
Um,
96 or something.
Yeah, right. So it to me though, it seems really kind of crazy. I don't know if it was an older photograph or even if this was just a random photograph that was for some reason discarded in this shed. But it's to me, it seems really unusual that no one has ever identified the person in this photograph. It was a school photograph.
Like a school picture.
It was a school
It's a
picture.
little black and white photo, yeah. But keep in mind that shed was also right behind that upholstery business where they did lots and lots of reupholstery, and stuff was stored out there until it was going into production. So whether it was part of that pile of stuff or if it was just a random photo,
True.
who knows?
Now,
Yeah.
was there DNA found that they had collected off of the book bag?
Yes.
The
Yes.
book bag was way later though.
Yeah,
the book bag was-
this is the stuff. The book bag was found later.
Oh, I said the book bag. Yes, I did meant the stuff in the. Yeah, sorry, I got ahead of myself there. That stuff was so because the book bag. What's crazy about the book bag was what, a year and a half later they find this book bag.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
Almost 30 miles up 18 near Morganton.
Actually, in the opposite direction of where she was heading.
Yes.
So so right shortly after she disappears, they find these items that they say were her items. And how far away from her home were these items found? And were they on the way to where she could have been going to like school or something like that? Or
No. It was actually in the opposite direction of where she was heading. It was 26 miles
Wait.
north.
The book bag or the stuff in the building?
Oh,
no. I was going to go with the stuff that they found in the shed behind the upholstery. That was how far away from her home was the shed, and also then we go into the book bag.
okay.
A mile.
Yeah, basically.
A mile away.
Yeah, because it's a good ways from. They lived a little bit off of the main highway, like a block, and so she would have to come down to the main highway and then walk pretty close to a mile, not quite, and then would have to turn and actually walk up this driveway, which is probably 200 yards off the road to that building. It's not right near the road.
Mm-mm.
That's what makes it so confusing. Is that like where was
Yeah.
she going? We don't know. She
'Cause
didn't have a cell phone or a computer, so she couldn't have been saying to somebody, "Hey, I'll meet you." Call them at 3 a.m. and say, "Let's go meet."
And it wasn't on the way to school, so it couldn't have been like she got up early to try to walk to school. Or I mean, I think there was maybe a convenience store kind of somewhere in the close proximity. But it just is very unusual that a 9-year-old would get up and leave the house and then go into this shed and
Yeah, and where the shed is kind of where the guy had say he'd saw her, on the side of the road. But if that was the case, she would have had to turn and run that far. I mean, it's a long way from the road to that building. It's not like
Okay.
it's just jump in the ditch and there it is.
Oh,
It's
okay.
a good ways, and it's kind of way out of the way, if you ask me. So it's kind of odd to me, and I always question, was the stuff actually hers? Was it planted there? Or was it just random stuff laying there and it just happened to be an Atlanta pencil and they say it is?
it kind of makes you wonder if there was some sort of staging. I mean,
Or yeah, who knows? And like you said, the picture might
always-
have been done.
I've always thought too that they use some of those buildings to store furniture that was going to be reupholstered, and I can lift up the sofa on the couch, the cushions on my sofa, and probably find candy wrappers under there.
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
me
And
too.
If she would have left her house and walked like towards Shelby, but went through the woods and behind the church and through a whole lot more woods without ever going to the highway, she could have made it to that building, but then no one would have seen her. You know what I'm saying? So it's
Oh.
just it's really, to me, it's kind of far-fetched.
That had anything to do with it. Okay, so now I can get my brain working. A year and a half later, they find the book bag. Where did they find that book bag again?
That book bag was found 26 miles north of where her home was, in the opposite direction of where she was heading. So it was actually just south of Morganton where the book bag was found. And it was found by a guy named Terry Fleming. He was a heavy machine operator. He was cutting in a driveway for a home off the road. And that's when he uncovered the book bag. It was double trash bagged.
Yes.
inside there.
And how
The
did they
will was
know it was
very-
her bag?
It had her name and phone number inside.
Yeah.
And actually, he didn't even realize what he had. He had dug it up, and and it's questionable whether it was buried or if it was just thrown out, and then he just kind of got turned under over time, or if it was just grown up.
I think it's grown up. Yeah.
But he did, flip it out with his machinery or whatever. He took it home, and he took it home, and his wife saw it. And when she saw it, she lost it because she had been following all this on the news, and he had no clue because he's working all that. And
Wow.
that's when she saw the name and address inside. That's when she realized what they had.
Exactly.
And in the bag was what? What were the contents of the book bag?
All they've released is a New Kids on the Block T-shirt or some kind of sleep shirt.
Right.
Dr. Seuss book, McGilligot's Pool, and some other items. I think they've revealed that her basketball uniform was in there.
Not sure.
Yeah.
But that we know that there was the New Kid shirt, her shirt.
They don't know.
No.
Oh, they don't
No.
know that. Okay, that's
The
what I
family
thought.
is saying that it's probably they don't think it's hers,
They don't think it's hers.
but nobody knows where it came from.
Well, and
And
New
that-
Kids on the Block were popular in maybe 10 years prior to that. They weren't really
Yeah,
a
she could still have this.
You could
Sure.
still have it, but I mean, you would think if she was wearing this New Kids on the Block, was it a sleep shirt or a T-shirt
Something like that. Yeah.
or something like that? Like the family,
Yeah, it was like a longer shirt with like a banding around the bottom.
Looked like something that a little girl would wear to bed, a longer shirt,
Yeah.
night shirt.
like a sleep shirt. So
Yes.
if it was hers, her parents would probably have known that
Right.
she had that shirt.
Now, the only thing to that we could figure, I mean, because we just constantly, as much as we've been over this, we try to twist stuff to make it fit and see, could it? But see, she went to this sleepover at her aunt's house on the Saturday night, but they had about 12 girls there.
Oh,
And
okay.
then we were like, well, maybe she picked up from one of them, but But
Don't
later,
know.
I think later on when we find out what happens here recently, we'll kind of explain a little bit of that.
And so let's get to well, before we get to what happened recently, the case has always been active. They've always been searching. 2016, the FBI says they get a new lead. That's a green 70s car, right?
Yeah.
And that went nowhere. Like they couldn't do much with that. They just had that lead.
Yeah, they just put
Right.
that out there if anybody knew of a green car, a green Thunderbird, or a
LTD,
Ford LTD or Grand Marquis or something to that
Yeah.
effect, early 70s model.
really long car.
Yeah, one of them big boat cars.
Mhm.
It said it had rust around the wheel wells.
Someone had printed that they had saw someone get pulled into that car.
Exactly.
And other than that,
Very
it's she's just vanished. There's not many clues. They every year there's the anniversary and they talk about it. There's rewards. There's all this stuff going on.
Well, and it seems like they're releasing stuff strategically because they still have not released, I believe, the full contents of what was in the backpack. And then how many years later they released the information about her possibly being seen getting into a green car, 2016. So that's 16 years later. So that to me indicates that possibly the case had gone cold, and they're hoping by releasing this information that maybe they can get some new leads. Was that y'all's take?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
Mhm.
So things start to bubble again in September of this past year, September of 2024, when we get news that the FBI and the Cleveland County Sheriff's Office are getting a search warrant, and we eventually find out what that's all about. So I would imagine Shelby and as was Charlotte and everywhere was like, okay, this is a big break. Something's going to happen here. Explain to folks what the search warrant turned up and are there any allegations, any arrests? So take us through as you found things out, because the search warrant was in September, but I don't think anything was released until January or February of this year, right?
Yeah, that's correct. In September, they fell on 601 Cherryville Road, FBI and Cleveland County Sheriff's Department there at the property of Roy Lee Dedmon. And they were searching the home, some outbuildings in different places. And in the search warrant, there's a ton of stuff that's described of them taking and looking for.
It was actually two homes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
2 homes there at the 601. Yeah.
Yeah, like one on the corner and one on the other corner that they had rented to another fella.
And the
what-
same people live there now that lived there in 2000, the Dedmons.
Roy
Yes,
Lee.
yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
And
Roy
did-
Lee lived there. His wife is there, not living in the same.
They don't live together. She lives in another part of Shelby.
Okay.
But had y'all heard this Dedmon name prior to this search warrant being issued?
Oh, I know of them. I know who they are.
Yeah, I've heard of him,
Yeah.
But not connected to this case.
No,
No,
no.
he's had a lot of. He's got a lot of history.
Yes, here in the county. Yes, he
Uh,
actually ran a school. It was a private school, 12 Oaks Academy.
Yeah.
Ran that for a while.
Yeah, and then he had several like assisted living homes and some other stuff. There's been a lot of controversy with him, and then even a case where they found some really emancipated horses. And then so he kind of got out of that. It seems like he's the slippery guy. Anytime something happens, it comes up, he either's got friends or power enough to where he just kind of slides out of it.
Mm-hmm.
So he was known. You knew he was known to the community because of some of the things maybe he had done, but he was not somebody that had ever been connected to the disappearance of Asha Degree.
Correct.
He had 3 daughters, and he still does have 3 daughters, but in 2000, he had AnnaLee and Lizzie, I guess, and Sarah. What were their ages?
Lizzie Grace Dedmon, she was the oldest. She was 16. And then Sarah was a little bit younger than her. I think she was 14 at the time. And then AnnaLee was like 13 at the time.
Okay.
So, but Lizzie Grace, she's the oldest. She was able to drive during that time in 2000.
Now, is this at some point in this part of the investigation, the authorities say for the first time, I believe, that Asha Degree had been killed. Am I correct on that?
Yeah, they were.
That's their theory.
Yes.
Yeah, because before it was missing. This is one of the first times they actually said or implied those words. So, how did the Dedmon girls, because the main one's this, how did this suddenly come up? Somebody
Because
talked.
none of them were the same age. Like, go over their ages again. None of them were the same
16,
age.
14, 13, and then
Asia's
is
9. So
Yeah.
none of them
We're not
could have been
buddies.
classmates or anything like that
No,
with
they didn't go to
Asia.
the same school.
Mm-mm.
Yeah.
Okay.
No.
So a guy comes
happened?
forward out of nowhere and says he heard things?
What happened was when they found that book bag up Highway 18,
Here we go.
that's when they found DNA in that book bag. I guess they found a hair.
Yep.
And then they found some other material, and one of the hairs belonged to AnnaLee Dedmon, the youngest girl. And then some more DNA belonged to a guy by the name of Russell Underhill. He was a patient at one of Roy Lee Dedmon's nursing rest homes.
Oh, it's interesting. But at the time, nothing turned up. Nothing happened with that DNA evidence. I mean, nobody was arrested. Nobody was said a person of interest. Nothing like that.
No, they just held on to that for a while and didn't tell anybody.
Well, and that's why they did all the searching. And then, like I was saying before, they searched Roy Lee's house, and then they found that green car that they took out, that Falcon. That, I don't know that
Rambler, AMC
I'm
Rambler.
sorry, yeah, Rambler.
Oh yeah,
So they had a green car that was similar to the description they released in 2016.
different car,
Yeah.
different size car.
By color, yeah.
But
Yeah,
they could
older
black
model
color.
car.
Okay.
Yeah. But there was also another house, like I said, that they were renting out that a fellow lived into. And there were 3 rooms in that house that were padlocked shut, and he was told he was not to go in those rooms. Well, when they come in and search, they took lots of old cell phones and all kinds of stuff that they took out of that house. I figure they're going through all that stuff now. But really weird stuff like this was in September. In October, the guy who lived in that White House, he died. He was only 50 something. He just kind of passed away quickly.
Yeah, written from Roy Lee Dedmon. Yeah.
Yes.
And we don't know, like, was his death, was it ruled anything suspicious? Was it ruled he had a heart attack? Was it ruled, what happened with that?
They haven't released anything.
We don't know.
We don't know.
Oh, they didn't release anything on that.
No, he just died.
They really didn't say that. We just know people who called us and said, I guess you heard that, right? It was like, holy cow, we checked into it, so it was true, but they didn't really, go into it.
So this was a property that was searched that this person who died rented from Dedmon's, and now he just died, but we don't really know the circumstances of how he died.
Right.
Correct.
This
So,
Roy Underhill we were talking about also passed away with kind of mysterious circumstances, and they found him in one of the assisted living
Really?
houses up in Vale, just kind of sitting there, just with his head down, blood coming out of his nose, his place on the back of his head.
And this was the guy whose DNA was found in Asia's backpack.
Correct.
That it's just
And just because
crazy.
someone's DNA is found doesn't mean
Yeah.
necessarily that they are guilty or they did anything. It just means somehow their DNA came in contact with her possessions.
Yes, and the only allegations right now, official allegation, is obstruction of justice. Am I correct that the parents of the kids, Roy and Connie, there's allegations of obstruction of justice, or do they charge them with that? What's the deal on that?
Nobody has been charged on anything right now. No. They've retained a lawyer, David Teddy. He's a big lawyer here in Shelby. They've retained him, and right off the bat, and there's nothing right now. They've released some text messages they got from the cell phones. They released them just 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And this looking pretty devastating for them. There's some convincing text messages of the girls texting back and forth. Looks very incriminating if you read it. It does. It looks
I have a list there, but I'm going to go back for a second because so somebody said this new investigation or this new search warrants and stuff happened because somebody comes up to the Cleveland County Sheriff's or whoever and says, or the FBI, I'm not sure which, and says, "Hey, back in whatever year, I heard
Early 2000s.
I heard the girls talking." Now, explain what has been released about that.
He's talking about the guy who was at the
They were at a house party or.
Yeah, that's right. There's a guy came forward that he was at a party where Lizzie Grace was and the middle sister, Sarah. They were there, and Lizzie Grace had been drinking quite a bit that night. And he allegedly, and he'd heard Lizzie confessing to killing Asha Degree.
She'd gotten very emotional and said that, and then Sarah came up to her and told her to shut the F up.
Yeah. And
why did this happened like soon after the murder or the Asha's disappearance?
I think it was a couple of years.
It was several years after that.
Okay.
Yeah.
But the guy didn't come forward till now.
Think about it. Right. Well, he didn't think nothing about it. Really, is just, all this stuff come out, and I think then it flushed him up, and he's like, whoa. So then he went and he took polygraphs and everything else. He said he is 100% sure what he.
And he has passed a polygraph.
He was actually at the walk this year with us.
Yeah, I saw him at the prayer walk.
Oh, really?
So he sees this new information coming out about her, sees something, and he says, "Wait a second, I was at this house party," and he remembers this incident of Lizzie saying that she was responsible for Asia's death in some way.
Correct.
That's like 20
Yes,
years.
it seems weird that he wouldn't go forward, but sometimes people think, well, she was just drunk. She was not making any sense, but then maybe he put two and two together. I don't know. I mean, I would hope that I would come forward right off the bat, but I don't know. He probably himself maybe had a few cocktails.
Very possible.
Possible, and they were all pretty young back then. All of them
teenagers.
What struck him the most was Sarah coming up
making
to
a big deal,
making a big deal out of it, because that wasn't her normal behavior. She was always friendly, outgoing, laid back. And then she got real serious when Lizzie was saying that she killed Asha Degree.
Huh.
She was telling her to shut the F up.
Jeez. And then so they got these text messages, and I'll give you one of them, for instance. Somebody says, who's Foster is the ex-husband of, is that who Foster is? Yeah.
Lizzie's ex-husband?
Lizzie's ex-husband, Kelly Foster.
And so she's talking to him a lot on these text messages, and she says they think it's our shirt, it's not her shirt, and says her mom said it wasn't hers, and I don't remember that shirt. I'm scared though. Dad is probably going to be a huge suspect. Okay, so
New Kids on the Block shirt.
Yeah. Now that alone, you might say, okay, well, we are going to be suspects because they searched the place. We know we're going to be suspects. She doesn't say she did it. What is like one of the most incriminating text sections to you, or one of the ones that really jumped out at you?
I think it's just the entire thing, the entire context of the text messages, really, and them going back and forth.
Well, what they did is when they served these search warrants in September, and everything was going crazy, and everything was going, this, and they're searching everything. What they did is they took Roy uptown, or they called him to come uptown, and he went. And when he went, that's when they served the search warrant at his house while he was not there. So then he got the lawyer with David Tully, which kind of shut down all communication. So then what they did, these text messages come from then. So they go back and go, okay, we got them flustered. Let's see what they're saying.
Gotcha.
So they're trying to pick up them, when they're in a panic and all this is going on, they're going to get on and say, well, let's see what they're saying to each other now that we've got them flustered. Maybe they're going to mess up here.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's unusual though that they are communicating so much by text, like almost like they're not realizing that maybe somebody is going to be looking at their text. To me, I mean, I'm thinking if I am accused or something, I maybe would pick up the phone and not send all these texts.
Exactly. Yeah. Trying to rattle them and see who's going to talk.
I mean,
she's also talking to her ex-husband, and sometimes we don't want to talk to our exes on the phone.
But she seems like, I mean, if you look at these texts, she's rattling them off one. I mean, she's definitely freaking out. And I mean, whether she's freaking out because they haven't done anything and there's police investigating them, maybe that would freak you out. I think would make most people scared. But
for sure.
One of the texts is she says to her ex-husband, "This is going to get nothing but worse. I'm talking to my doctor at 5 to get something for my nerves. I'm just worried, so worried. I mean, it's a nightmare that it's going to keep getting worse. Like, something good happening anytime soon. And I'm an optimist. There's no way this is going to be okay. I just talked to David Teddy, the family lawyer. The theory is I did it. Accident, covered it up. No. The husband says, like, the ex says, why would it be you? And she says, that's what they said. They talk about how horrible he feels for her. And then here she said, is everybody mad at me? Nobody is, Lizzie. This is not your fault. I'm just so anxious, like, what is going on behind the scenes? And this is like on September 29th.
I'm wondering if she said, like, when I read that, I thought maybe she said that because of this, all the attention is being brought on them from her conversation at that house party years before, where she confessed, where she said that. That's kind of what I took, as like, everyone mad at me because no one knew we had anything to do with it until I ran my mouth while, being intoxicated.
Except one part in here, she says, I think if they come at you again, just go and be compliant. That's what I'm planning on doing. I think so too, honestly. I mean, I want to do what Dad says, but damn. And maybe we should let you do what you originally wanted to do. That's interesting.
Yeah, that's what's got us to, yeah.
What you originally wanted to do. Yeah, and then IDK, I really don't know.
So let's stop there. Originally wanted to do.
Yep.
That, to me, and y'all, let's just banter about this a little bit. That, to me, says she wanted to tell the truth. And she knows something, and that maybe someone she knows or has connection with was involved in some way, but she's being encouraged not to tell the truth. I don't know. Exactly. Is that how y'all took it?
That's exactly how I'm taking it. And it all comes back to this DNA being found in the book bag of the AnnaLee, the younger daughter. That's how they got focused in on the Dedmons.
Yeah.
And one of the things
I don't know if doing originally what you wanted to do would go back to the incident or go back to the first time the police come to see her in Texas.
Right.
Okay.
Just that, because they are not talking because they got an attorney, but maybe that she's saying they want to tell you whatever we know, which may be nothing. Maybe.
They might be saying, "Hey, we're innocent," and the lawyer says, "Don't talk.
Keep your mouth shut." Yeah.
But the one thing I wonder about, tell me if you guys can help me with this, is she says, right, you don't want something we do or say impact him, but we also can't be living like this either. We don't know who the him is, right?
I'm assuming the him is Roy Lee.
That's what we assume.
I mean, it seems like,
he's a pretty strict dude on him. See, and right after this, I don't know how many years after, but it wasn't many, that Lizzie Grace moved from here to Mexico. And she was there for a while and then moved back to Texas and lived in Texas ever since. She didn't have a job there. She didn't go to school there, and she wasn't going there for a boyfriend. She just went.
She just went. Yeah.
Is what we've been told.
Like to disappear
Well,
kind of thing.
So also wasn't there one
Which
of
maybe
the
not mean nothing, but it looks bad.
Right, right.
well, yeah, no, she might have. I mean, a lot of people want to not live close to their family.
Right.
But another thing I thought was interesting was they said they thought Dad would be a suspect. Did you like somewhere in those
Well, yeah,
texts?
yeah. I think I had read something
So
about
that makes me
yeah.
think him. Why are they thinking immediately that Dad is going to be a suspect?
Because I'm scared, though, Dad is probably going to be a huge suspect.
Yeah, because that road was highly traveled by them going back and forth between Shelby and Morganton, transporting patients from their nursing homes from the Broughton Hospital. It's like a mental hospital up there in Morganton, and they would transport patients back and forth via Highway 18. So this road was traveled by them.
So it's everything is very possible. So there's no definites, but a whole lot of possibles.
She says at one point, he was just like, I will call Teddy, that's the attorney. We can go get a polygraph with the honest people. Not sure who the honest people are, but it sounds like she's willing to do one, or maybe, again, these are the only, by the way, they only released certain text, right?
Right.
I'm sure they have a lot
There's
more
certain
stuff.
little clones. I'm sure they have tons.
I'm assuming that the reason they're releasing this, I would imagine, is hoping other people will come forward, jar a memory or something like that. Otherwise, there'd be no reason, right?
Yeah.
Well, put the pressure on them to
Turn up the heat a little bit and let them know what they have, and just see if anybody crumbles. Is what I think.
and the first one that talks gets the better deal.
Yeah.
Well, and that's the thing is if anybody in this family had anything to do with it, or anyone not necessarily in the family or associated with the family, or someone knows something, I mean, this text thread indicates to me that this wasn't one person who knows something. It seems like multiple people possibly know things. So if multiple people know things, it seems logical that one person is going to come forward and say, hey, look, I did not have anything to do with Asia's disappearance, but I know some stuff, so I'm going to make my deal.
That would be me. I'd be the first one in line.
No, I'll be right there knocking on the door when they open
Yeah,
up.
yeah. If I had nothing to do with it, I mean, you can only protect family for so much.
You know what though? Like, what to me is the biggest question is, we have this DNA connection between the Dedmons and Asia, but we still don't understand anything. We don't why she left the house that night. I think I listened to one of the podcasts that possibly talked about maybe she was sleepwalking, but she had this bag packed with some things in it. Mm-hmm. It just, to me, there has not been a connection, at least that I know of, but maybe y'all might know something different, where Asia had the girls weren't the same age. She didn't really seem to know this family or have anything. They were different schools. They didn't live really in close proximity to each other. What do y'all have any sort of theory of what happened?
That's what me and Dale call the 100-yard question.
Yep.
Yeah.
They lived 100 yards off of Highway 18. And even, we interviewed O'Brien, her older brother. We talked to him, and, I asked him what would get your sister out of the home. And he said, he plainly told us that they were both heavy sleepers. And the mom would have to come in and, bang on the wall of the door to get them up in the morning.
Yeah, so it's just really odd.
Especially a little girl.
It was raining it was cold and rainy that night, and I saw something or read something somewhere saying that she was scared of thunderstorms, and it's just to leave on a cold, rainy, dark night, 9 years old, just makes zero sense to me.
But again, go back to the sleepwalk and this this deep sleepers. Just obviously we're just spitballing and wild accusations or wild theories, but my brother would sleepwalk on occasion. So you go for a little bit distance, right? Let's say she sleepwalks, but then comes out of it. Right. And now she's like, where am I? What's going on here? There's this truck pulling by, and she just runs into the woods. She's got to figure out what's going on, right? I mean, that there could be something there.
Yeah, I don't buy the sleepwalking theory because
Yeah.
the doors are locked. I mean, if you're going to grab your stuff and walk out sleepwalking, you're going to stop, turn around, lock the door, and then go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The door was
she
locked.
locked the door.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
The door was
My
locked.
brother walked out and went, started to go to the bus stop with his stuff, got dressed for school.
All right. So Matt might
No,
might
I'm
buy
not-
into the theory.
Yeah, no, I don't know if it is or not, but he did. He ate breakfast.
He locked the door.
I don't know if well, we never locked the door 'cause
Okay.
but yes, I know. But it's still, I'm just spitballing because I don't like. I'm still like, how would they not know? And where would she be going? Where could she possibly be going?
But then also, what were the Dedmons? What is their connection?
Yeah.
Was it a hit and run? And somehow they, it was a dark night. They hit this person. And then they tried to cover it up.
Insane.
It just, there's so many unanswered questions.
Yeah,
Yeah, probably because it was reported that somebody saw Asha being pulled into that green car. That's how that green car came about.
right. And there's not
We
yet.
knew that those Dedmon girls did drive that green car that they found on her property, even though I don't know if it had anything to do with it. They drove a lot of vehicles there.
And what would
Living
if that happened? If she was pulled in or got in on her own, were they trying to get her home, or what were they actually doing out at that time of night?
They're
Because they were
teenagers.
teenagers as well.
It's 4 a.m.
right. And it's a Sunday night, yeah.
Yeah.
It is. That's why the one of the reasons the case is so baffling is there's just
Yeah.
so many incredibly big holes in the story, and she just disappears.
Well, the good news
There's
is
lots of theories here, but
Yeah,
You know.
but you don't want to, do all those. That could be a bad path. But I'm sure if I sit at some of the Shelby watering holes, I'd get an earful of theories, huh?
yes.
Yeah. But Cleveland County Law Enforcement, Cleveland County Sheriff's Department are doing a great job on being tight-lipped on this. They only let out little bits at a time. And when they tell us something, they're really telling us stuff without saying anything. They'll just let a little bit of information here and there. And that's about it. They want us to know what they want us to know.
Right, and the FBI is involved too.
Exactly.
And O'Brien said they were really, really good with the family about letting them know stuff.
Yeah.
Like his last thing came out, he said they had told them beforehand that it was coming out, and he knew it before, but he just couldn't say nothing.
the
So
saddest
they
thing
really
for
good.
Asia's family was she went missing on February 14th, which was her parents' anniversary.
That's
Yeah.
right. Yeah.
I mean, that's just heartbreaking. Every year that they celebrate their anniversary, it's just a reminder of how many years Asia has been gone.
Yep.
Well,
25 years. Yeah. Wow.
we
And I mean, it's encouraging though to me that there's been such movement on this case lately because, so many families with these cold cases, you just think nothing's happening, but it does, like you said, the sheriff's department there is really working hard to still keep this an active investigation.
And we feel like they're still analyzing stuff they took
Yeah.
from the search warrants. They're
Sure.
still going through the cell phones and the computers and things. And
The forensics and the DNA.
yeah, so I think they're still working on that stuff to try to get more stuff out. And that's why they released some stuff to maybe put some pressure on that Dedmon family to get somebody to talk.
and let us know that they're doing stuff.
Exactly.
Because
Yeah.
everybody around here was like, well, they had all that big blow up, now nothing. I guess nothing. And like people, this takes time.
Yeah,
It does
exactly.
take time.
And
Do
the
you-
sheriff's department is definitely not going to do anything to jeopardize this investigation. Everything's going to, because this is just so big. Alan Norman's not going to have that.
No.
Do you
I'm
think
sorry
this
to cut you off.
will be solved?
Yeah, I think
I
so.
think
I mean,
we're close.
they're very, very close. I mean, the information they've let out is very encouraging anyway.
Hmm.
But it's like, Aquila, her mother said it at the prayer walk. It's like, people keep telling me they're sorry that they're opening up these old wounds and doing this. She goes, no, them wounds never close. My wounds
Right.
has never closed. And she said, and we know a lot more today than we did 25 years ago. So, it's like, we're they're still hopeful. Even people was calling them and blowing them up, on the phones and everything about what's going on. It's like, they welcome, the only thing they didn't like was just people showing up on their, knocking on the door trying to get news out of them. But as far as the stuff, they're like, well, it never has closed. We're still here and we're still looking. And all of them in their eyes, she's still alive. And until you prove me different, that's the way we're going to believe.
Donnie and Dale, the host of the Crack House Chronicles, true crime podcast, based in North Carolina, based in Cleveland County, where Asha Degree went missing. You guys have been doing a great job on this story.
How many episodes do y'all have on that Asia Degree story?
Oh, I don't know how many on Asia.
Bunch.
Bunch.
A bunch.
As I was scrolling
Yeah,
through
a
it, you
few.
had a lot.
Probably not as many as you do on Murdaugh, but we have.
No, I really enjoyed your episode that y'all did with the profiler. I thought that was really well done.
Karen Stark.
Yes. Yeah. I was
Yeah.
like, I listened to it and I was like, oh, wow. Just kind of blew my mind about all the different things that go into creating a profile of maybe what happened. It made me think a lot.
Yeah. You guys do a great job. Thankful that you had joined us, and thanks for having Seaton on a year ago or a couple of years ago. I lose track of time.
I know, me too.
And everybody check out, we'll have in our show notes where they can link over and hear your podcast and check it out too. Appreciate it, guys.
Well,
Thank you, guys.
so much. Thanks for having us.
Thanks.
Do it again.
Thank you. Bye. So off they go, our pals over at Crack House Chronicles.
I know, and I can't believe we let them go without asking them how they named their podcast.
How did we miss that obvious question?
I don't know.
I'm sure we will talk again about different crimes that are going around the Southeast that we deal with and they deal with. And there is a little bit of an Asha Degree update. Authorities searched several buildings in western Lincoln County on April 4th. Part of the investigation into the disappearance of Asha Degree, who we just talked about, from Cleveland County 25 years ago. Now, the owner of the property, quote, gave consent for the search and is not connected to our ongoing investigation in any way, according to Cleveland County Sheriff Alan Norman. He said that on social media, FBI and SBA agents conducted the search, and there was also the sheriff's investigators helping as well. And that is all they have released on that. So there you go. If you have any information on any of the cases we cover or ideas on cases we should cover, go to Impact of Influence on Facebook page. There you can shoot on over to our YouTube channel as well. Rate and share, support our sponsors, part of the Evergreen Podcast Company. And we'll talk soon, friend.